out overnight
Oh, what's
and so likely tomorrow morning. An inch or two possible in the Sioux Falls area.
Good morning. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. I'm scrambling a little bit this morning. I got a lot for you. Excuse me. And we're going to get to it here in moments.
News Talk 1320.
Okay, here we go.
And Kello.com. The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
I love the Greg Belfrage Show.
I've been listening to you for years, Greg. Thanks for all you do and keeping us informed.
You sound a little taller on radio. Dispensing a daily dose of common sense. No prescription required.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time. I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
This is the Greg.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show, Friday, February 7th. The big stories this morning actually are right here in our backyard. Governor Larry Roden saying yesterday that the state's back is against the wall and a new men's prison needs to be built. So, Governor Roden holding his first news conference then during the legislative session here. And he said, he was talking about a prison. And he said, I'm not prepared to discuss it if it's not happening. I believe it will, he said. And then he talked about the South Dakota State Penitentiary. He described concrete crumbling from the ceiling of a showroom, shower heads hanging from rusty pipes, and a crumbling facility. And the governor said, we need to resolve this, and it needs to be this year. Failure is not an option, is what he said. So this has been very much in the news. There have been other stories. You've had the Secretary of the Department of Corrections, Kelly Wasco, has been talking about it with lawmakers, and their emotions are really running high regarding this. So you've got the former warden of the state penitentiary who's out there saying a lot of things. And I will just tell you, I know people in corrections. Yeah, there's information out there that's just simply not true. And the governor said, I won't disparage the former warden, but I saw it for myself. And I know what I saw. And what the governor is saying, this is what I'm hearing from people that I know that either work in the state penitentiary, so on, or have been there. They've got firsthand knowledge of what's going on there. And it, again, what you hear the governor saying yesterday, yeah, but, this thing, you get people taking sides, and I really have made it. I've been contemplating this for the last couple of days. It's been building, for a period of time, but I think especially you've got, folks on social media, and if you think you're well informed based on what you're seeing on social media, you're not well informed. So one of the things that I really want to do on this show, and I'll be doing this in the weeks ahead, is reaching out to talk to people about what's going on, where we're at, get you some information then upon which you can base a decision versus, just seeing stuff on social media. And again, for some people, I understand an emotional reaction, a prison in their community or in their area. And it's just, it's NIMBY, not my backyard. There are a lot of folks in our state who have an immediate knee-jerk reaction when we start talking about these things. And you really have got to take your emotions and set them aside. Because the reality is the state needs a new prison. And so one of the things that I hope to do on this show is talk about this in more detail and get some folks in, rather than just going to the phones and getting everybody stirring the emotional pot, because social media is doing a pretty good job of that right now. You got a lot of people out there who are just, getting all worked up. Whoa. I mean, I watch that and that's a total turnoff to me. I am looking for information. And I'm not saying I won't get emotional about it. Maybe we learn things and you don't get emotional about it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you can say, I think what's important is that we start getting information out there for people to actually hear, digest, understand. And when the governor is saying, not disparaging the former warden, Roden's saying, I saw it for myself and I know what I saw. And so what he's talking about is the deteriorating conditions at the South Dakota State Penitentiary. There are some serious issues, I believe, there. So is that true? I'm concerned when I hear the governor say things like that, not concerned about him. I mean, but I'm concerned about what the state of the penitentiary is and where we go from here. I think this is a big conversation for our state, and especially for those in this part who live in this area, who live in the Sioux Empire, right? You live in eastern South Dakota, in particular, extreme southeast South Dakota. This is a very big issue. So it's something that we're going to be following more on this show. I made that, and I will be working in the coming days to, in the weeks ahead, to try to get you some additional information without just politicizing it, getting in emotional reactions, because as I said, there's plenty of that already. I mean, if you want that, you can go to social media and you can get that to your heart's content. What I'm looking for is more information. Let's actually see where we stand and what needs to happen. So I promise we'll be doing that on the show. This is a big story. The governor also, I don't want to spend too much time on that, at least right now, but it is a very, very big story. Also, the governor saying that there are a couple of pieces at Dakota Scout. Want to give them some credit. Dakota Scout, the governor is saying he's confident that he and the legislature can deliver on property tax relief. So it was his first legislative press conference since he became governor. And he said that a property tax work group met for the first time on Monday. This is made up of lawmakers from both chambers, as well as members of the governor's staff. So they want to see some property tax relief this session. Also, Dakota Scout's got a story. As we're talking about law enforcement, Minnehaha County Sheriff Mike Milstead said earlier this week about the number of people who were brought into the Minnehaha County Jail. 6 people in the jail were brought in with ICE putting detainers on them, he said. And he said that kind of activity over the last 4 years has not been common. He said, I will say that it was more rare than it is now. So that's another conversation we need to have. We haven't talked to Sheriff Mike Milstead in a while, so we'll need to catch up with him on that. So those are big local stories. Also, so let's see what's going on nationally. Let's go to foxnews.com. They're reporting about the first flight of migrants arriving in Guantanamo Bay. So more than a dozen Venezuelan criminal illegal aliens are on their way to the Guantanamo Bay detention camp in Cuba. Some are members of Tren de Aragua, according to the Department of Homeland Security. You can get additional details on that this morning at Fox News. Highly dangerous people is the way they're being described by the Trump administration. So DOD said that migrant criminals are being housed in vacant detention facilities. DOD said that it's only a temporary arrangement being made to ensure the safe and secure detention of these individuals until they can be transported to their country of origin or another appropriate destination, they're saying. Trump had promised, and we talked about this late last month, he talked about using Guantanamo to house 30,000 criminal illegal aliens. Also, a top story at foxnews.com this morning, Governor Ron DeSantis has signed an agreement that could deputize Florida Highway Patrol officers to perform the functions of federal immigration officers. And there's pushback. There's pushback on everything. And you hear that. I think especially if you heard America in the morning today, it's like, I mean, the pushback, the complaining is just staggering, absolutely staggering. And here's Trump, bam, bam, bam. It is. So Florida potentially helping out ICE with the plan from Governor DeSantis here to deputize the state patrol. Also at Fox News this morning, there's this foxnews.com. There's a story about an employee of Boston University and said that the staff that are working for DOJ, I don't know. I think we need to, we need to play the Darth Vader theme every time we're talking about the Department of Government Efficiency. This is the way that many people are reacting. All right, so this employee of Boston University says that the Department of Government Efficiency and the staff are wanted for treason, dead or alive. Oh, that's some pretty serious talk. And so I think what you're seeing is that looniness has just been allowed to run rampant in this country for way, 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 way too long. And you try to push back common sense and you try to cut federal spending. And I mean, you see the difficulties that lie ahead here. It's a very interesting story this morning at newsmax.com. Steve Forbes was talking about this. I'm going to get that. I'll share that with you here in just a few moments. But it's just absolutely incredible. All right, let's go to Straight Arrow News, see what the big stories are this morning at Straight Arrow News. Tom Holman saying that members of a Venezuelan gang living in Aurora, Colorado were tipped off last week to an ICE raid. And he emphasized that he would address those responsible. He said, we're not going to tolerate it anymore. This is not a game, he said. When we show up at these sites, this is a dangerous job for the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol and all of the DOJ agencies. He said to have that type of interference puts our officers at great risk. not only the officers, it puts the aliens at great risk because anything can happen when we take our eyes off the goal here. So we are addressing it immediately, he said. So he said he wasn't blaming the media for the leak, but he indicated that there may be no more media ride-alongs with ICE agents, and because of this. In other words, he's not blaming the media, but also, it appears, not trusting the media either, which is probably pretty wise, I think. So that's a big story. It's Straight Arrow News. Also, we'll talk about this later this morning. Donald Trump signing an executive order yesterday, establishing a task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias. And so he signed this, and he wants to get rid of anti-Christian policies, prosecute related crimes, and take other actions as well. And he criticized the Biden administration for targeting peaceful Christians while ignoring anti-Christian offenses. For instance, as he talked about the jailing of anti-abortion activists. Also, the DOJ has accused FBI leadership of insubordination after Brian Driscoll failed to hand over information about agents involved in the January 6th investigations. FBI agents filed lawsuits seeking to protect their identities due to concerns about retaliation. What you see here are those in federal government running for cover. You see that everywhere. Okay, let's go over to One American News Network. Their top story this morning. A U.S. bankruptcy judge has rejected a settlement between the Sandy Hook families and Alex Jones and his bankruptcy case. So the judges rejected their latest settlement proposal. You can find more details at One American News Network. Also, Donald Trump asking congressional Republican leaders then to terminate tax benefits for hedge fund managers and owners, and we're talking about affluent owners of sports teams. And Carolyn Leavitt, the White House press secretary, said this will be the largest tax cut in history for middle-class working Americans. This is Trump was meeting with Republican leaders in the West Wing, and she referred to Trump's requests as the administration's tax priorities. No tax on tips, she said, which is obviously a very public campaign promise that the president made. No tax on senior Social Security, no tax on overtime pay, renewing President Trump's 2017 middle-class tax cuts, and this goes on. Also, Trump has officially added the portrait of Ronald Reagan to the Oval Office. And that's, again, among the top stories this morning at One American News Network. Over at Newsmax, Newsmax says the Federal Workers Associations filed a lawsuit late yesterday asking a federal court to stop the Trump administration's effective dismantling of USAID. That controversy continues. Okay, I mentioned Steve Forbes to you a few moments ago. He is the chair and editor-in-chief of Forbes Media. So Steve Forbes was on Newsmax, and I think he was, Rob Schmidt tonight. And he was talking about Elon Musk and what's going on with the Department of Government Efficiency. A lot of you are tuned in and tapped into that story, Elon Musk. And so Steve Forbes said that he believes Trump learned a lot of lessons from his first administration and knows that if he doesn't rapidly advance his agenda, he may not get much done. And so Forbes said Elon Musk epitomizes that. In a real entrepreneurship, things do look like a mess. Things do look like helter-skelter. But if you're going to get things done, you have to move and move quickly. I think Trump, after his first term, realized that if you don't move fast, yeah, you're going to have some setbacks along the way. But if you don't move fast and big, you're going to end up with very little. I think Steve Forbes is absolutely right. And that's what we have seen from, that's what we have seen from Donald Trump. Other stories that are out there, the post-millennial this morning. Donald Trump yesterday ordering the termination of all media contracts with the General Services Administration. So we've learned that the federal government was paying millions to Politico for Politico Pro subscriptions. In other words, you had federal employees who were in agencies that were purchasing Politico Pro subscriptions, and Trump told the General Services Administration to terminate every single media contract. I mean, this is just lunacy. Why in the world is the federal government and Politico's out there? Hey, we were just. I'm going to have that for you this morning in Looney Tunes in the News, because this is just absolutely crazy. So that's also a big story. In fact, that's a look at all of the big stories for this morning. All right, 627. Thanks for starting your day here. It's great to have you along. Mostly cloudy and 17. You're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello.
Weeknights 5 to 8. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, the Give You More Tire and Automotive store.
Bring charm from the outdoors into your home with Renewal by Anderson picture and combination windows.
Yeah, I mean, everything's moving at the speed of light. I mean, right now. And DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, if you're on X, follow the Department of Government Efficiency. Because they've got an account on X, and they're talking about all that they're doing and what they're finding. It's just absolutely mind-blowing as you look at what they're doing and what the federal government's been doing. And I think Americans have been completely unaware of a lot of this. So as I was saying, why in the world is the federal government paying for subscriptions to, Politico? Wow. It's one thing. You want a subscription to Politico? By all means. The federal government paying for it? That's just blows my mind, baby.
Or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today. Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
You know what happens? I get so deep in my thoughts and I start thinking, okay, this. And then, man, I look at the time. It's like, where am I? Do we have enough time? I love doing this job, but All right, here we go. And currently in Sioux Falls, mostly cloudy and 17. Currently at Kello. Joe Bowman is in the Kello.com News Center. Governor Roden set to sign his first bill. Joe will have those details coming up. You're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show.
Unions are suing the Trump administration over plans to cut 10,000 jobs, leaving just 290 people working at USAID, the main U.S. international aid agency.
The American Federation of Government Employees and the American Foreign Service Association say the Trump administration's created a global humanitarian crisis. President Trump has said USAID is being led by radical lunatics.
Fox's Jill Nato. The Senate votes 53-47 to confirm Russell Vought as White House Budget Office Director.
All 47 Democrats protesting the nomination, holding the Senate floor throughout the previous night, calling Vought the president's most dangerous nominee, citing as helping to write the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 policies, and outrage over the OMB releasing a since rescinded memo last week to freeze funding for federal grants.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin. America's listening to Fox News.
Kello News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. Governor Roden is set to sign his first bill. The measure will officially ban sanctuary cities across South Dakota. Lawmakers have given strong support for the legislation, passing through both the Senate and House with ease. The bill signing takes place this morning. State lawmakers are debating limits on school administrator pay as teachers remain near the bottom of the barrel when it comes to national salary rankings. The Senate Education Committee advanced a bill that would cap administrator salaries at 3 times whatever the average teacher pay is in their district. South Dakota ranks 49th in teacher salaries, but 16th for administrator pay. Opponents say the bill would hurt recruitment of top school leaders. The measure now moves to the Senate floor for a vote. South Dakota senators approved stronger financial oversight measures yesterday, one day after rejecting similar legislation. The Senate unanimously passed a compromise giving the state auditor access to agency financial records and requiring the auditor's office to hire qualified accounting staff. Attorney General Marty Jackley and the Roden administration backed the changes following the recent fraud cases in state government. The bill now moves to the House. A few bumps in the road for Sioux Falls' efforts to curb street racing. City leaders say it's the #1 complaint at Sioux Falls City Hall, who call it a public safety issue. Rapid City Senator Helene Duhamel and other Western South Dakota lawmakers are concerned, calling this new bill a threat to the Sturgis motorcycle rally.
This is big business, Western South Dakota, maybe all of the state, with the Sturgis motorcycle rally being the biggest tourist event of the year.
The committee passed the measure after adding an amendment. The full Senate is expected to consider it next week. And in sports, USD softball opens up its season this weekend in Texas. The Coyotes start off with a pair of games today, facing off against Texas Southern and then East Texas A&M. The first pitch is 2 p.m. this afternoon. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
A few flurries this morning, otherwise mostly cloudy skies. High temperature 34 with a southeast wind at 5 to 15. For tonight, low temperature at 18, and snow will be breaking out overnight, and snow likely tomorrow morning. An inch or two possible in the Sioux Falls area, but more snow into southwest Minnesota. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens.
The Sioux Empire's interesting news talk station with the power of information all day, all night. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Here's a new word I want you to remember: notify. Don't bother to look it up. It's not officially in any major dictionary yet. Can you guess what it means? I'm Kim Commando for SimpliSafe. At simplysafekim.com, save 50% on a new SimpliSafe system. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. New frightening artificial intelligence apps, some actually being promoted by Google search results, take a photograph of anyone and using its AI, produce a very close representation of what that person looks like nude. Hollywood celebrities have contended with this for years, but the photos were always clumsy and obviously fake. But these deepfake photos are realistic. Anyone who downloads one of the many Nudify apps can take photos and within minutes have a realistic nude photo of anyone. Women and girls may be scoring a victory and getting men out of their sports. But this is something for which, as of right now, there appears to be no defense. Join almost 700,000 people who get my free newsletter. Sign up at getkim.com. Nothing is more important than protecting who you love from harm. If you've been thinking about home security, now's the time to join the millions of Americans who trust Simply Safe to protect their homes. Traditional home security systems wait until after a break-in to react. By then, it's already too late. But Simply Safe is a smarter way. Their Active Guard outdoor protection uses advanced AI-powered security cameras paired with live monitoring agents to keep watch over your home 24/7. If someone suspicious approaches, the agents can see, speak to them directly, and even call the police, all in real time, helping to stop the crime before it even starts. Monitoring plans start
All right.
day. There are no contracts and no fees.
Now I can concentrate on you.
Plus, with a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, you can be sure Simply Safe is the perfect
Is there anybody
fit for
here?
you.
Yeah.
Visit
Welcome. It's great to have you all along. I appreciate it.
With a professional monitoring plan.
We'll talk about trending stories coming up here for you in just a few moments. A couple of minutes away here yet.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Okay, let's talk about that.
With 2 locations to make sure you have the proper traction this winter.
At Avera Orthopedics, we're transforming pain into possibility every day. Whether you're chasing a personal best or simply want to enjoy life to the fullest, our specialized care is designed to help you feel better and stronger. We're here for you. No referral needed. Trust Avera Orthopedics to unlock a world of endless possibilities.
Robert, I'm just seeing your comments. Send me an email. Greg.belfrage@kelo.com. Greg.belfrage@kelo.com. Send me an email and I'll protect your identity. And well, we've got to talk about the prison. And as I was saying when I started the show, my hope is to give people information rather than to drive your opinion. You know what I mean? Rather than push opinion in a certain way, what I would like to do is get more information to all of you regarding the prison, and so you can make up your own mind. Because I just think what's happening on social media right now, and as I said earlier this morning, got the former warden out there saying all kinds of stuff, and others who are picking that up, and you know, and you've got the governor saying he's been to the prison and he's got firsthand knowledge and what he's seeing. You know, I'll take the word of the governor in this case. So there's just a lot of misinformation out there. I'm going to be trying to combat that. .638, mostly cloudy and 17. Good morning, my friend. Great to have you along. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. And a welcome to those watching on YouTube this morning. We do the 6 a.m. hour live every morning on YouTube. So welcome. Nice to have you along. Whether you're listening to the radio, the app, YouTube, there are just so many ways for you to listen to Kello. All right, don't forget, coming up tomorrow night, the Wiener Dog races out at the Sioux Falls Stampede game, and we've got some reduced tickets that are available for you on our website. Go to our website, which is KELO.com. KELO.com. Do not go to KELOLand.com. Go to KELO.com. Look for our quick links, and right at the top of those, and you'll have to scroll down a little bit to find the quick links. But right there are the Stampede tickets, the link to get them, and that's promising to be a lot of fun because the Sioux Falls Stampede once a year then become the Fighting Wiener Dogs. So the Fighting Wiener Dogs will be on the ice coming up tomorrow night. You have the Wiener Dog races taking place out there, and it is always a great time. All right, trending stories this morning. Federal judge yesterday blocked Donald Trump's plan to push out federal employees by offering them financial incentives. So the ruling came before the midnight deadline, because midnight this morning was the deadline. Well, a judge now has pushed that back, and it's commonly being referred to as a buyout. So a district judge in Boston did not express an opinion on the legality of the program. He scheduled a hearing for Monday afternoon. And there's, again, a lot of this is just, things that you're hearing. Because I heard this morning. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, seriously. It's, well, okay, you get a buyout. Well, we don't know if we're going to be able to pay those people. We don't know that we're going to be able to pay the buyout. Now, wait a minute. Okay, so they remain on the job. And you're doing what? Paying them? So they can remain on the job. We have no concerns about paying them. You do a buyout. Well, we don't know that we're going to have the money. That's the dumbest thing I have ever heard. And that's pretty tough, because the list of dumb things that I have heard in the last 5 years is just like mind-boggling. Okay, let's not get too far afield here. Also, the Department of Justice yesterday filing a lawsuit against the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago for interfering with federal immigration enforcement. So that continues to escalate. The lawsuit was filed in Illinois against Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, as well as others. Also, the NCAA, this one's from Breitbart, the NCAA has agreed to retool its participation rules to exclude transgender athletes from playing in women's college sports, following Donald Trump's executive order this week. So again, keep in mind that trending stories are often following actual breaking news, sometimes by a couple of days. And the president of the NCAA, we talked about this at length on the show yesterday, saying the NCAA would comply with the order and revise their participation policies. Also, Donald Trump yesterday at the National Prayer Breakfast said that he'll sign an executive order to have the Justice Department create a task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias. The story's from foxnews.com. And he praised his new Attorney General, Pam Bondi, as a great person. And he said she would lead the new task force. And he said, about time, right? Anti-Christian bias? Yeah, I never heard of that one before, right? But there it is, he said. The mission of this task force will be to immediately halt all forms of anti-Christian targeting and discrimination within the federal government, including at the DOJ, which was absolutely terrible, the IRS, the FBI, terrible, and other agencies. We're going to talk about that coming up later this morning. Donald Trump and his focus on God. Donald Trump is a changed person following that, that assassination attempt. He's a changed person. And that is very, very clear to me, but we'll talk about that coming up later in the program this morning. Also, the president signed an executive order sanctioning the International Criminal Court. He's accusing them of improperly targeting the United States and Israel. So his order includes both financial sanctions and visa restrictions against officials from the International Criminal Court and their family members who have been found to have assisted in investigations of U.S. citizens or allies Right? There is a lot of dirty stuff that's been going on right under our noses. Also, new Attorney General Pam Bondi on Wednesday issued a series of directives designed to overhaul the Justice Department that Donald Trump has said is biased against conservatives. So she called for the creation of weaponization working group. Will scrutinize the work of special counsel Jack Smith, who charged Trump in 2 criminal cases. Group will also review unethical prosecutions stemming from the January 6th riot, among other things. And it's a leftist freak out every day. I mean, there's a lot of pushback on a lot of this, and a lot of that, honestly, to be very candid with you, I just ignore. I mean, it's a leftist freak out, pushing back, screaming. And to me, it's just like beautiful. All right. The Senate Judiciary Committee vote on advancing Kash Patel's nomination to be director of the FBI was delayed yesterday. Democrats raised objections. So the move will require the committee to take a 1-week hold before voting on Patel's nomination. But so they're able to delay it, but it won't have any effect on the vote. It's not expected to. So what they're trying to do is slow everything down. You see, because that's the best Democrats have got right now in Congress. The best they've got is to try to slow things down. And I think, and I want you to keep that in mind, because I have some folks on social media, they're getting quite worked up about, the slow pace at which this stuff is going. First of all, hey, this is Congress, right? This is Congress. You got the Democrats trying to, throw their shoes into the works here to try to slow everything down. But it's all going to be for naught. So don't stress over that stuff. Don't stress it. Because they're not, he'll advance and we'll go from there. And I don't blame the Democrats for that. I wish the Republicans did more of that kind of stuff. Seriously. I think as the Republicans, you're just used to, okay, whatever. Well, the new administration's in town. Okay, whatever they want, whoever they want, we'll just give them whoever they want. And Republicans have just let Democrats roll over them. So don't stress it. All will be well. Also, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that he will not attend the G20 summit in South Africa in November. He talked about the South African government's laws permitting them to expropriate private property and their commitment to leftist priorities like DEI, climate change, all of this kind of thing. And so Secretary Rubio says he's just not going to participate. And then there's the legacy media, then the state media, they're all, well, here's what these countries are saying. Here's what they're doing. It's just noise, man. It's just noise. Marco Rubio is right. Also, the U.S. State Department announced that American ships could sail through the Panama Canal for free. Remember, I mentioned this to you yesterday. Hours later, Panama denied that claim. They said it was not true. So this was a post on Wednesday. The State Department said Secretary Marco Rubio had agreed with Panamanian leadership to allow the move. And this would save the federal government millions of dollars annually. Now, the Panama Canal Authority reacting to this and saying, no, that's not true. So I don't know where it stands. We'll see. That story is trending. Also, Argentina is following Donald Trump's lead in withdrawing from the World Health Organization. That story trending in a number of places this morning. This piece is from Newsweek. And the president of Argentina is saying, we will not allow an international organization to intervene in our sovereignty, much less in our health, he said. Also, you've got former University of Pennsylvania women's swimmers filing a lawsuit against Harvard University, the NCAA, and the Ivy League Council of Presidents over their experience sharing a they're suing over transgender swimmer Leah Thomas. The lawsuit does not name Leah Thomas, but that's where the suit is coming from. And they're saying that the institutions injured them and violated federal law. Also trending this morning, the owner of the Chicago Bears, Virginia McCaskey, has died at the age of 102. The team announced this yesterday. They said, while we are sad, we're comforted knowing that Virginia McCaskey lived a long, full, faith-filled life and is now with the love of her life on earth, the family said. She guided the Bears for 4 decades and based every business decision on what was best for Bears players, coaches, staff, and fans. So she was the oldest child of Papa Bear, a founding father of both the Bears and the National Football League. And she once said of her father, she said, he lived his dream, saw it grow into such magnificent proportions, and it's amazing to me, she said. But she ran the Bears for 40 years. Pretty amazing. So fans saying farewell to Virginia McCaskey at the age of 102. While we're talking about deaths that are trending, unfortunately, it's one of the things that, stories that trend, folks are moved when they hear about the deaths of folks they admire or have known. Irv Gotti, who was a music producer, founder of a label, Murder Incorporated. He has passed away. So he's best known for co-founding the Murder Incorporated record label that launched the careers then of rappers and singers. He has died at the age of 54. And Def Jam Recordings said his contributions helped pave the way for the next generation of artists and producers, a force that reshaped the soundscape of hip-hop and R&B, they said. We got the president of Colombia saying that cocaine is no worse than whiskey. And it's only illegal because it comes from Latin America, he said. Colombia is the world's biggest cocaine producer and exporter, mainly to the United States and Europe. Spent decades fighting against drug trafficking. So this was during a 6-hour meeting that was broadcast live. He said that cocaine is illegal because it is made in Latin America, not because it is worse than whiskey. Scientists have analyzed this. Cocaine is no worse than whiskey, he said. Also trending this is from NBC News. Bipartisan congressional bill being introduced to ban China's DeepSeek artificial intelligence software from government devices. And this is a bill that, and again, it's a bipartisan bill aimed at keeping DeepSeek AI off of government devices, which I think is a move that many of us would applaud. Also trending this morning, Mexico has started to deploy the 10,000 troops that they promised they would send to the border after Donald Trump had threatened tariffs. Also, this story has continued to remain in the news. It's trending this morning. Tom Homan reacting to New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, and he claimed that he was housing an illegal immigrant at the governor's mansion. And Murphy said, I don't want to get into too much detail, but there's someone in our broader universe whose immigration status is not yet at that point where they are trying to get it to. And we said, you know what? Let's have her live at our house above our garage. And he said, and good luck to the feds coming in to try and get her. So after this started trending, the story was everywhere. Then Murphy started backing off. Well, no, that wasn't true. And I thought, well, that's hardly a surprise. Here's another Democrat saying something that later have to admit is not true. That's hardly a shock. Also, there's a story trending about, I think, all of the Quicksilver, Billabong, and Volcom stores in the U.S. will close up after filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. Thanks for starting your day with the Greg Belfrage Show, 6:57. Mostly cloudy and 17. And you're listening to Kello. Thanks for starting your day with us. I appreciate it. Hope you'll return to YouTube for the 4th hour at your convenience. We do it live at 9:30, but you can catch it on YouTube whenever it's convenient for you. So otherwise, I want to wish you a really great weekend. Take care.